Ever notice how you can scroll for hours and still feel exhausted? That's not an accident. Today's world is designed to keep you hooked, because if you stop scrolling, they have lost. But there's the twist. Science is clear. Our brain needs boredom. It's not dead time. Boredom is where breakthroughs happen. Einstein, Bill Gates, even Steve Jobs, they all contribute boredom to their success. And I've also seen this in my own life, because I didn't just read the science, I tried it out. And what I discovered about boredom, actually, it changed my life in ways I didn't expect. And I'll share them with you today. So why is boredom so powerful for success? And why is it one of the most hardest things we can do today? My name is Lars-Erik. I'm a trained copywriter who works in mental health, and I've spent the last years studying up close, seeing the patterns of what shapes our well-being, both what holds us back and what helps us grow. And to be honest, I'm a little bit obsessed with the question, how do we actually improve ourselves in a world that never stops distracting us? That's why boredom became such a turning point for me, and why I think it might be for you too. Because listen, there is a right way to be bored. Okay, think about the last time you were bored. Like, really bored. Just sitting with nothing to do. Was it in the waiting line? Was it when you were sitting on a bus? Was it maybe before bed? Well, I think like the majority of us keep scrolling before bed. But think about the last time. What did you actually do when boredom came? Chances are you grabbed your phone and started scrolling. And I do that too, honestly. In a world where boredom is almost gone extinct, you know, the average person actually checks their phone 96 times throughout the day, which is every 10 minutes. And that is just the average. It means our brain is constantly being fed with novelty, you know, notifications, scrolling, video games, music. We're never really off. And the irony, even though we're bored, we often feel restless, we feel more anxious and less alive than ever. I know this to be true because this is how I felt. Let's be honest, boredom sucks. But it sucks if you're doing it wrong. You can actually do boredom right. That feeling when you're restless, like you should be doing something more meaningful, but you can't figure out what that is. You know, psychologists have actually described boredom as the unfulfilled desire for satisfying activity. It is basically your brain saying, this isn't enough. We have to do something else. And from an evolutionary perspective, this is really interesting because boredom was really useful when we were like cavemen and jumping around and hunter-gatherers. Because if we were just sitting around the fire for too long, doing nothing, you might miss out food, you might miss out opportunities, or even you might miss out the danger lurking around. So boredom is kind of wired into us as a signal to move, it's a signal to change, it's a signal to explore. And when we understand the mechanisms behind boredom, is really interesting because then we can use boredom to our advantage. Because in today's society, boredom collides with endless entertainment. And that makes things really strange for the brain. Because without boredom, the brain never gets to breathe. And by breathing, I mean, you know, those quiet moments where it processes, resets, and connects the dots. It's like if you're flexed all the time, like this, and you're never really giving your arm room to rest, your arm would get tired. This is the same thing with the brain. You know, actually, there is a really funny, famous study about this. Scientists put, I think there were around 100 people in a room, and the mission was to be in that room with no distractions. So there was nothing in that room, and they were to be there for 50 minutes. The only option they had was they could give themselves an electric shock. And this is so crazy because I think it was around 67% of the men and 25% of the women. They chose the shock over 50 minutes of boredom. And honestly, I get that because when I started experimenting with boredom, it was brutal. You know, just sitting there with nothing to do, no phone, no stimulation, it almost felt painful. And in the beginning, it is because our brain isn't used to it anymore. But we can fix that. Because do you know what's more brutal? Is being 80 years old, looking back at life and realizing you actually never lived your life because you kept just scrolling it away, consuming it away. Always telling yourself later, always saying you're too tired. The truth is, scrolling is making us tired, is making you more tired, and not chasing your dream is making you tired and consuming it away. One is the exhaustion of distraction, the other is the exhaustion of regret. So the question is, which one do you really want to live with? None of them, yeah? You don't want to live with distraction, you don't want to live with regret, you want meaning. And that's exactly where boredom comes in. I know this firsthand. Personally, I hated being bored because every time I was bored, I felt I needed to do something. And every time I was alone with my fault, I felt as a complete failure. So I kind of filled boredom, you know, I filled that space as I could. I had podcasts while I was walking. I had music when I was cooking food. I had series before bed, just scrolling whenever I could, telling myself also that, oh, I'm scrolling because of research. I want to be inspired. I thought I was being productive. But the truth to the matter is, my brain was so exhausted because I had no space to think for myself. I had no space for my brain to just be. No silence. And slowly, because of that, I noticed my focus was shrinking. I noticed my ideas and my creativity became smaller. My mood became heavier. Just talking with people, I was thinking about my phone and I was kind of bored all the time and just needed some stimulation. And I knew that was wrong. So I decided to test something radical. I started to train boredom. It's really weird to just say it out loud, but that's what we need to do. We need to train our brains to be bored because that's a muscle that we're not using anymore. And so I just deleted one app, like I deleted the app that I was most addicted to just to make scrolling harder. And once in a while, I was making food without having music there. And also one of the biggest things that I did, it was to just remove all the notifications. So the only notifications that I had on my phone was SMS, not Messenger or Snap or Instagram or TikTok. All those notifications were gone, only SMS and if someone were to call me. And also I went on my walks without headphones. And when I was with friends, I would turn the phone off. Because we all know it. It's like when you're sitting with a bunch of friends and we're all talking and then just 1 second of air comes in, we're all taking out our phone because we want to remove that dead air. So we start scrolling. But the thing is, in that dead air, new topics of conversations will pop up if we're just giving it time. So I needed change. And in the beginning, boredom was torture. My hands were literally like twitching for the phone. My mind was screaming at me like, do something. But I knew inside I wanted this change. So I did it slowly to not have too much friction, which is, I think, the key to every kind of new habit. And then after a while, something shifted. After the restlessness, then there came ideas, memories I hadn't thought about for years, new connections, feelings I had avoided. Like there was one memory from me when I was a child with friends in the forest. I was playing Lord of the Rings. And why this is kind of a funny memory is because I was Legolas because I really loved nature and I really connected with nature. That was why I was wanting to be Legolas when I was young. But I had forgotten about that. And when I realized that, I was like, yeah, I always kind of loved nature. But I was just continue scrolling and not being bored enough to remember those memories. Just realizing that boredom wasn't killing me. Boredom was saving me. Boredom made me create YouTube. Boredom made me ask for a raise at work and I got a raise. And I'm going to buy an apartment now. I just got my finances in order and I give that to boredom. And honestly, if you think about how to do boredom right, it's kind of fascinating how this mechanism works. So why is boredom so fascinating for the brain? You know, when you're not focused on anything, when you're daydreaming, staring out the window, just letting your thoughts wander, a part of your brain lights up. It's called the default mode network. Your brain's creative factory kind of starts to do its mechanism. It's where memories connect with new ideas. This is kind of where your mind makes sense of the past and imagine the future. This is really funny because some of the most creative breakthroughs in history actually comes from those moments. It's Newton, he was just sitting under a tree. Einstein, he was daydreaming on his bike. There is writers, artists, philosophers, they all talk about how insight arrives in moments of stillness. Which is why mindfulness is so powerful. And here's the kicker. When you avoid boredom, you're not just avoiding discomfort, you're shutting down one of your brain's most powerful networks. The thing is, I didn't really realize how I was killing my own creativity until I stopped escaping it, until I stopped scrolling. Because let's be real, inviting boredom today, it's like swimming uphill. Our brain, it's wired to seek novelty. You know, every notification is kind of a hit of dopamine, which is why I remove notifications on my phone, because every time like that little ding, no notification came, I was like, yeah, oh, cool. That hit of dopamine, it made me feel alive because I wasn't living. There is $1 billion companies, they're designed those apps to remove boredom instantly, which is why I have removed all my notifications on my phones right now. So I always have to check my phone and check it if there is anything happening, which is empowering because it's made me feel that I am in control of my own life. And just that feeling alone makes me want to do different stuff. It's just small, tiny things that create big change. Just think about it. You know, boredom is the enemy of every social media platform. If you get bored when you're scrolling there, you stop and you just do something else. And when you stop, they lose money. So the algorithm is designed to keep you stimulated there forever. So you can think about it this way. When you're resisting the urge to fill your silence with scrolling, you are fighting not only your habits, but you're fighting Silicon Valley's best engineers. You're a soldier of that war, which is kind of no wonder it feels impossible, but stay strong, I would say, and know that by destroying the scrolling habits, you are a person in a bigger shift in the world. It can be kind of inspiring if you think about the bigger picture of it. And I want to talk about the big rewards if you manage to eliminate stimulation all the time. So creativity is invited in next to boredom. You know, self-awareness. Boredom forces you to meet yourself, meet your dreams, meet your habits. And yes, sometimes that's scary, but it's also where growth happens. At least this is exactly where growth happened for me. When I became more self-aware, it can be quite difficult to navigate if you're the only one self-aware. But then I want to invite you into this little corner because this is the corner of self-awareness. But being self-aware, it's a reward in today's society. If you want to be successful, you need focus and you need discipline. And it's really hard to be focused and to be disciplined if you're constantly feeding yourself dopamine hit with scrolling. The ability to sit with boredom is directly linked to resilience. Athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, they all talk about pushing through those boring, repetitive trainings and then starting to create. For me personally, the biggest benefit was really clarity. Clarity about my dreams, clarity about what I wanted to do with my life, focus on that. And making those habits of constant dopamine hit harder and making the habits of creating easier. And honestly, if I hadn't trained to be more bored, I know I wouldn't make this video here right now. I know I wouldn't have the finances to now start my buying the apartment journey, asking for a raise. There is so much things that had happened. And now, especially the last few months, or the last year after I invited boredom in, than has ever happened in the last 10 years. Even though I have really changed a lot of my habits throughout those years, but the biggest shift now the last year is inviting boredom in a lot more. I've also almost stopped drinking. I haven't drank any alcohol since January, and now we're in September as I'm recording this video. So I really contribute that to sitting with boredom and becoming more resilient with my own feelings. So I want to give some practical tools of how to train boredom and how I did it myself. There isn't any reason to start crazy with it if you're not that kind of person. Maybe you are, you can just delete everything and just sit. But a lot of us would need some kind of ease into it. So I would say just start small and be proud of the small changes. Just find 5 to 20 minutes throughout the day when you can just invite boredom in. If you're always on your phone when you're you can not bring your phone into the bathroom. If it's when you're eating or if it's when you're creating food, making food. For me, the biggest shift happened when I deleted my notifications or removed the notifications, and when I started to make food without my phone. Those were the starting changes. And then also I would start my kind of like a boredom walk. I would leave my headphones at home, I would leave my phone at home, or if I were to bring my phone, I would put it on airplane mode. And it would be like, okay, now I'm doing this mental workout, just this boredom training. To look at it as an exercise. It's like when you're going to the gym, you know you're going there to work out. When I'm going on my boredom work, I know I'm doing it to train boredom. There is a lot of times throughout the day when you can experiment with boredom, and then just do it step by step. Use waiting time as a mini experiment of boredom, a step-by-step process. And try to remember that the trick here, or the goal, has to try to be not to be productive while bored. Let your mind breathe and just see the magic happens, because there is a lot of things happening while you're bored. So here's my challenge for you. I would really love to connect with people that wants to try to explore with boredom. So for example, tomorrow, just give yourself 10 minutes of boredom. Sit with yourself, no phone, no music, no distractions, and let those feelings feel. At first, maybe you will feel restless. You might even hate it. But stay with it, because boredom isn't the absence of life. Boredom creates life. It's the space where life kind of finally has room to grow. And remember, when I'm talking about this, I am also talking from experience. There is so many things that is happening in my life now because I've invited boredom in. There is real power in being bored, in being still. So if you want to be a brave human being, start being bored. And if you don't know where to start, maybe you can start with this video right here. Until next time, I see you.